For some context, today's topic was mostly around the economy.
Alrighty, why do you support Trump?
I like his economic viewpoints. I disliked, well, I'll say I disliked Kamala's, I guess, things that she was trying to pass in regard to economics. And I heard you talking to people last week about taxing billionaires, and I wanted to kind of get an idea of like what you foresee happening when you said a 70% tax.
Yeah, 70% tax on income over $1 billion.
Yeah, I just want to, I want to know what you think would be the repercussions of that economically.
Wage increases.
For who?
The working class.
How does that happen if you are taxing the billionaires that are employing millions of Americans?
Because you create an incentive for those business owners and employers to pass down that money to their business through their business to their employees.
But how is that an incentive if they're losing money?
Because they would get taxed on it otherwise.
Okay, I don't know if I'm following.
Yeah, so we put this tax in place. Like, think about it this way. I'm a business owner, okay? So if I pay out wages to one of my employees, that reduces my taxable income. That saves me whatever my top marginal tax rate is, because of the fact that that's going to be what I would have paid otherwise on that income. Does that make sense?
So you're saying
it gives me more of an incentive to pass down my money to my employees.
So you're just saying that that would be an option for them, not necessarily what would happen in response to the taxes.
Yeah, it's either they'll get taxed or they're going to pass down their money to their employees. So they'll likely pass down their money to their employees because it could have some sort of positive impact on them in the long run.
Okay. I mean, I guess I can understand where you're coming from and the fact that it's an option. I don't personally think that that would be the option they would take. I would think that they would pass along the losses in ways of raising prices and maybe even lowering salaries, maybe firing people.
No, this is on income taken out.
Well, and income taken out, how does that relate to the business itself?
So I recommend you looking into how top marginal tax rates can impact wages, because historically we use them to increase wages and put upward pressure on wages. We had high top marginal tax rates, so the highest levels of income up to 90% top marginal tax rates. Now, that's not the effective tax rate, but it was a top marginal tax rate.
Yeah, I mean, I'm not super, I guess, informed on how historically taxes being raised have affected wages. But I guess what I'm getting at still is I don't necessarily think that. And let's also, I want to decipher or separate too. Like you said, money taken out is where you're seeing that they would want to write off. Hold on, and I'm listening to myself echo in the background. It's kind of bugging me,
Sorry.
but so no, you're good. So you think of a billionaire, let's just take one for example, Bezos, whatever. He takes out money, you're saying, into his pocket for his personal use. That's what you're referring to?
He does that sometimes. Otherwise,
well, sure, I'm just saying hypothetically.
Otherwise, they might take out like a loan, right? And they'll specifically pay for their daily expenses on that loan, and whatever their tax.
No, yeah, I understand how all that works.
Yeah,
I'm just trying to create a hypothetical. So, let's say he takes out money. Let's say he takes out $100,000. What you're proposing is that be taxed, and he's actually getting $30,000 out of that.
Say that one more time, sorry. You're saying what?
My AirPods disconnected. Can you hear me?
Yeah, I hear you.
Okay. I'm saying hypothetically, if Bezos takes out $100,000 and he's taxed 70%, so he takes out $30,000 that he's actually going to be able to grab.
No, that's not what I'm saying.
So what are you? That's what I'm trying to understand. What are you saying?
Tax brackets. So do you know how tax brackets work?
Yeah, I get that. But
it says on this income and over, you pay that level of tax.
Correct. I understand what you mean by that. What I'm trying to define is when you say when a billionaire takes money out. I'm trying to understand what you're saying when you're saying that.
Yeah. So I've explained there can be a few ways in which they do that. It could either be through the context of it taking a personal income, which is typically not done, or we can see through the context of capital gains, or we could see through the context of what's it called, the loans that people will take out as taken as collateral on their business or the valuation
Yeah,
of
yeah.
their stocks, so they can use that to take care of their personal expenses.
Okay, so let's talk about capital gains then, because I mean I think we're going into a place where we're talking about a bunch of variables that may or may not be the case for them taking money out. But capital gains is one of the things I disagreed with Kamala's campaign. And so, what's your stance on? They were wanting to tax unrealized gains. Are you supportive of that?
So, they weren't going to do that. She changed her policy on that. That was only on over 400 million, and I'd actually be okay with that. The reason why I'd be okay with that is because it would create an incentive for investors to buy as soon as they were going to sell, because this is a known sell and it doesn't change the valuation of a company. So it just creates an incentive to buy back that company's stocks for other people. So it either creates more diversity of ownership within companies, and reduces inequality, or it specifically raises more revenue without actually impacting the valuation of the stock very much. Because think about it this way: there's going to be a sell, which means a bunch of people are going to be like, "I'm going to buy then because I know it's going to drop a bit, and it will just increase back to where it was."
Well, regardless of the implications of the response or the effect from the cause, what I'm trying to understand is why you think it would be a good idea to tax people on money that it has not been realized and it's an investment vehicle. So if I, for example, have a retirement account and I have $100,000 invested and that has grown to 500,000, why am I going to be taxed on $400,000 of growth before I even pull it out or have the ability to pull it out?
No one's advocating for that. I wasn't
That's
advocating
what
for that.
taxing unrealized gains is.
It's not, because we're not talking about that level of wealth.
Okay, there's plenty of people that have over $400 million that are invested in the stock market.
Yeah, and that would be applicable to those individuals, not you, at
Even
500k.
well, even if you want to say not me or maybe it's the next guy, there's pensions, there's
The
endowments,
next
there's.
guy, you mean like the richest Americans?
I'm saying it doesn't matter who we're talking about. What
It
I'm getting
does.
at is there are people and there are also institutions that are invested into these stock market funds and individual stocks, and whether the case may be that it's a person that has over 400 million or a institution that is managing hundreds of thousands of people's of money. Where I mean, are you saying they're only going to tax individual people that make over $400 million? That's what they were going for.
Yes.
Okay. And you don't think that people that have over $400 million have probably a majority stake in the investments in the stock market anyway?
It depends on the individual. Now it's just gonna be taxed on small portions of that. It's not like they're taxed like 50% unrealized. Like what?
Well, I don't know. What was the percentage that they were looking to tax on unrealized gains?
They weren't looking to do that.
I saw it that they were looking to do that. It's one of the things I
Nope.
disagreed with her campaign.
Harris did not run on that for her campaign.
Well, when I was looking at the comparison between her policies and Trump's, I saw that she was, excuse me.
Yeah, I know. Someone was thinking that Biden's policy that he ran on years back is the same as Harris's policy, which she did not hold to that policy.
Okay. I mean, I guess I'm indifferent on whether that's true or not. I saw it that was one of the things she was running with,
Nope.
and I disagreed with that. But
Okay, I just think that's a stupid point to disagree with, to be totally honest. Like, you're okay with the massive tax breaks to millionaires and billionaires in the big, beautiful bill, but it's a big issue for you to tax the unrealized capital gains over 400 million?
well, I'm not saying it's a big issue per se. What I was getting at was I could see it having a very negative impact on a lot of people, if
Nope,
that were the case.
I disagree.
Well, I mean, that we can disagree. That's fine. You mentioned tax breaks on millionaires and billionaires. Again, if we go back to my original point, I think that billionaires employ a lot of people in America, and I think that tax breaks could actually help the people that work for them. I
Okay.
think that's where we would
It seems
maybe
like
see
you don't
some wage.
understand tax brackets. So I'm telling you, the top marginal tax rate's what they save. So if you put a lower tax rate to them, that doesn't give them any more incentive to pass down that money to their employees. That gives them an incentive to keep that money and to put it into whatever is going to profit maximize for themselves.
Okay, so for example, the last company I worked for, and I know this is unrelated, so bear with me, but when the stimulus came out for COVID, they gave them to companies, right? And the companies, some of them had to do certain things with it, and some of them chose what they were going to do with it. The company I worked for chose to pay because it was salary plus commission, and so commission was down, COVID was rampant, and everything. And so the company chose to pay a higher wage to its employees. They didn't have to do that. They could have used it to grow the business or do whatever they really wanted to at that point.
So because this one business did this, that means all businesses will do this.
No, I'm not saying that, but what I'm saying is there
So
was plenty of
we
examples out
judge
there of that
in
happening.
policy based upon what's going to happen typically in the market, not based upon the most benevolent businesses.
Well, I mean, I wouldn't say that that was. I mean, either way, I think to say that one case happening makes every other case impossible or not likely is not an accurate statement. I think there's plenty of businesses that did that. And anyway, the point I'm making is if you gave billionaires and millionaires tax cuts, and they're, I think that that would, I think that would, what's the word I'm looking for? Incentivize them to help their employees and be able to do wage
Yeah,
growth and be able
how
to.
has trickle down economics worked over the past 45 years?
I don't know. You tell me.
Bad.
And when in what year or what time frame did they give billionaires and millionaires tax cuts to the you know equal to what Trump's trying to do?
Well, I'm not saying equal. I'm just saying that they've continued the trend of trickle down economics, and that started under Reagan. And that trend of trickle down economics has not led to better working conditions for the average person. It's not led to lower taxes. And not sorry, not lower taxes. It's not led to more wage growth for working class Americans. It's led to actually less wage growth. Wage growth has stopped increasing with productivity when prior it did.
Okay. I mean, I'm not super informed on 45-year economics policies. But I guess I continue to stand on that opinion of mine. Somebody in the chat said that my company took my stimulus. No, there was stimulus paid out to individuals and there was stimulus paid out to companies. I was talking about the one that was paid out to the company.
Okay,
Um,
what is the reason why you support Trump then? Because it doesn't seem like he
like,
would
well,
actually
like,
benefit the economy. There's no metric in the economy that he's actually benefited.
well, like I said, I voted for Trump because it was more of a disagreement with the other policy than Trump's policy, than me loving Trump's policy, if that makes sense. I was
What
more
specific
so
policies? Just the unrealized? Is that the only thing?
that was one of them, and then just like trying to give credits to people to buy homes and trying to get whatever the credit was for having children and things like that. I think that that was going to hurt the economy, cause more inflation, which you seem to
How?
be. You're giving people money. Where does that
Yeah,
come
yeah,
from?
tax breaks. So, by the way, you don't think tax breaks to millionaires and billionaires will cause inflation, but tax breaks to working people with children that will cause inflation?
So you're saying that, okay, let's start with the first one I
All
said, which
tax
is that,
breaks put upward pressure on inflation. That's just a fact. No one's disputing
okay,
that.
let's
What you're not understanding, though, is this is necessary for people who are in need, right? This it decreases childhood poverty. You're literally saying tax cuts for working class people are bad, but tax cuts for the rich disproportionately are good.
no. I was saying that, and I've heard you talk about it on your live before. So you have mentioned that they were trying to give money to folks for homes. I didn't understand that it was a tax cut to give them money for, like, what.
Yeah,
So
$25,000 tax credit for first time homebuyers for new homes.
okay, so in the way that taxes work, is that just going to fall into their pocket, or they're going to give them a tax credit year over year over year over year until that amounts to $25,000? What is that going to look like?
I would assume that it's applicable over 1 year, specifically, where like anything that you can up until that point in 1 year. That's what I would assume that it would be. It could be something that carries over. I'm not quite sure. I haven't seen anything that would verify if it does so otherwise.
Well, typically for taxes, when you write stuff off, for example, there's a limit of how much you can do per year. You can't just write off, you know, everything everything that you got. Like, so I'm just wondering how they're going to give individuals for example, let's
I
say a
mean, you
person that,
can write
let's say
off your
average.
entire taxable income if you have a income that's lower than the standard deduction.
Okay, so let's say this. What's the average income in America right now? Is it still around 40 million or 40,000?
The average income or median income?
What, whatever one we're going to base this conversation off of.
Well, I'm asking you because I don't know what you're trying to get out of this. So, average or median?
What does the average American bring home household?
So, I'll tell you the real median income. Real median income is around 83,730 for household income.
Okay, so household. So just I guess we can save per individual. That'd be 40-ish, roughly. Um, so with that said, if you have somebody that makes $80,000 and you were planning on doing a year over year over year, because you said you assume, so I don't know. I still don't know what that looks like. Giving someone $25,000 tax credit. I mean, how much did money do you, how many years do you have to make 80? Like, I'm trying to figure out the math there for how that's going to work out. I thought it was just them going to give them money.
So, it's a tax credit. Okay.
Again, I'm asking you, how does that work? Yeah, you said you assumed,
Do,
but how does that work in real life?
do
If
you
I'm
know how
looking to buy
tax
a
credits
home,
work?
I do, but in real life, if I'm trying
Okay.
to buy a home, how do you give me a tax credit on buying said home?
Yeah. When you, like, you know, the tax credits are EVs,
EVs, what does that stand for?
electric vehicles.
Oh, sure.
Have you ever dealt with those?
No, I don't have an electric vehicle.
Okay, well, it works the same way. You buy it, and then on your taxes later on, you can file that you bought this, and you can reduce your taxes.
So you're saying I buy a house and then I go back and I file and I say I bought a house, give me $25,000 back.
Yeah.
Okay. And so you don't think, and I know you're an economics major, so there's no effect of that happening for millions of people in America. If they all do that,
It's for
there's
people who want to buy new homes, homes that were just built. Does it make sense? Not everyone's buying homes that were just built.
okay.
And these
So
are
now
for
it's only
new
for new
homes,
homes.
first time home buyers.
Okay, so it's just for new.
And I never said now it's just for new. I said that the very first time. You just
Well,
apparently
no, no,
just
no, no, no.
realized I said that.
I'm not saying now for you saying it. I'm saying now, like I'm gathering information.
Okay, makes sense.
I'm by the way, I respect what you do. I'm not trying to be rude or anything. Um
I don't think you are. I apologize for if I came off that way.
no, you're good. I know I've seen a lot of the people you deal with on here. I understand. Um okay, so again, first time home buyer, you're saying $25,000 tax credit. Even with that said, do you still think that there's no economic response to that much taxes being wiped off the board?
There's
Because
n-
from most of the stuff
there's
I hear
no
you say,
economic response. I mean that will be an economic response that will lead to a more building of housing.
okay, so then the supply of housing will go up, so then the demand will go down,
No,
so
no,
then
no, no.
housing
No,
prices will plummet.
demand goes up because of the tax credit, which then causes supply to increase with the demand going up. But it doesn't become less affordable for people trying to buy new houses because first-time homebuyers buying new houses, they specifically get that tax credit.
Okay, let me also define. Are you saying first time home buyer or are you saying new built home? I understand first time home buyer, but are you also saying on a newly built home?
Yes, both.
Okay, so
First-time homebuyers for new homes.
okay, so when I worked in real estate, the Sun Belt got oversupplied with multifamily units, and it really, really hurt the valuations of those multifamily units. And what I'm trying to understand is if just you said it would up the supply of homes being built. So if you do that, then all of the homes in the vicinities values will go down because the supply is up. Yes or no,
That's okay.
right?
Yeah, I'm totally okay with that.
Okay. And so, but that wouldn't hurt Americans.
Sure. It would hurt the valuation of those houses, sure. But the reality of the
So
matter is that if we want people specifically to have access to houses, yes, this would be important.
yeah, I'm just again, I'm trying to understand this in a way that I'm just trying to understand how that would look good economically
It is.
for people that are trying to, let's say, sell their home, and then four new neighborhoods are built right next to them, and their valuation of their house just plummets, and now they can't get out of their home.
So, I mean, if they're going to be buying a new house and a bunch of new houses have been built, then they would be able to get a house for cheaper.
Well, no, sure, but what I'm saying is, if they're not looking for a home necessarily, and maybe they're downsizing, but they need money, and they have a home that's valued at $1 million that they bought for $150,000 way back when, and then now the valuation plummets, and now their house is worth nothing in comparison to a million, and now they don't have any money, and they're not moving. So
They don't
I
have
don't
any
know. I
money. It's
just feel
still
like
going to be well above 150, so they're still going to make
well,
money.
sure. I mean, I agree there. I just feel like there would be an economic impact there, which, by the way, is my focus.
Okay.
Like I said,
Which is fine.
economics.
Which is fine. I mean, would you want housing prices to stay up because people are going to have reduced values of their homes?
No, I don't. I don't think that I want them to be escalated all the time, but I think that a fair valuation with the current supply and the the consistent building of them in a a normal manner would be what I would be looking for. Not build 100,000 homes in a city just because of the
So
tax
we
credit.
don't want to increase the housing of to decrease prices. So you want prices to stay up.
Well, no, I just said that I don't want them to stay up. I want them to be accurate based on the area's valuation of that town or that city or whatever. I
Yeah,
don't want it to go.
that the market determines that based on the level of housing and the
Correct.
demand. So
But if you build
that's
five new neighborhoods in that area, you are going to hurt the valuation of said property that's been there for 30, 40
okay.
years.
Okay. What's the issue? I don't care.
Well, it's not necessarily if I care or don't care. I think you're asking me what my opinion is. What I'm saying is I would fear that the economic impact would be negative versus positive. That's all I'm saying.
How it okay, if you think that's negative, then it's negative only specifically for people who already have been in homes, right? That already have had developed homes, that already have all of it taken care
Let's
of,
also
for
let's get a little
example.
deeper into this too, though. So I maybe we can agree to disagree there. My opinion is different than yours, but let's get a
And
little bit
again,
deeper into that
if
too.
they want to get a better if they want to go and get a different house, they can for cheaper if we make housing cheaper by literally creating more homes.
Yeah, I understand your point, but let's get a little bit deeper too. So, a lot of people in your chat saying I don't care for the middle class. I'm in the middle class, so I don't know why they're saying that. Anyway,
Because of
um,
Trump's tax policy being bad for people in the middle class.
yeah, I guess so. I am curious too. So, if we take a person, let's say, that cannot currently afford a home, and you give them a tax credit which incentivizes them to purchase a home, this will be done, but it'll be financed at terms that are probably going to be pretty um, what's the word I'm looking for? Predatory. And then I would assume that it would be difficult for them to pay the mortgage in the first place. Would you agree with that?
So you're saying it would be hard for people to pay the mortgage because it's going to get people into positions in which they can't afford a mortgage? No, because they have to qualify for it prior. This just helps them with it after they've already qualified.
Well, what I'm saying is if somebody who can't afford a home currently, who is made able to afford a
Yeah, this is
home
a
by a
tax
point,
credit they get at the end of the year, man.
I'm assuming that that tax credit would be included into the financials that the loan supplier is looking at, right?
No, they qualify outside of that.
Okay, so then you're saying that people who can afford homes will be the ones buying them anyway because the tax credits at the end of the year. So then how does this what what is the incentive for them to buy it with a tax credit when they could already afford it in the first place? I'm confused now.
Because it helps them afford it.
That's what I'm getting at, though. If you need $25,000 to help you purchase a home that's in the hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of thousands of dollars.
It makes it easier. Does that make sense? Like, is this
Well, I
complicated?
understand
I'm
that you're putting
confused.
it
Why is
very
this so
simple. I
complicated?
understand it makes it easier. But what I'm trying to understand is if someone who can't afford a home gets $25,000, but which by the way is, I mean, you're in LA, right, or Cali?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so if somebody gets $25,000 to help them buy a $1.5 million home, and that's what did it for them. That's what created the availability for them to buy a home. I would assume they'd be in a pretty poor financial situation overall once they get into said home after they get a predatory loan because they see their financials that they aren't really able to buy a home. Are you not following me there?
No, because I just explained this to you, and it sounds like you're not listening to me. Okay, I'm gonna say it again. I want you to listen
I'm
this
not
time, please.
understanding. I am listening.
Yeah, I get it. I understand. So, again, it is a tax credit they get at the end of the year, right? They have to qualify for it prior. If you say a predatory loan, the predatory loan would be literally irrespective of them getting in the fucking tax credit.
Okay.
That's a private company then at that point.
Okay.
So we're talking about the tax credit that helps them afford it for people that were already going to buy houses, makes it easier for them to do so. So, like, the person who's doing it might be more likely to do it themselves because of the fact that they can afford it more. But they still have to be assessed to be able to determine whether or not they'd be able to pay back the loan in the first place by the individuals that are giving out the loan.
I mean, I guess I follow you. I mean, yeah, it'll help somebody who can already afford a home. I thought that we were saying that it was more for people who were having trouble affording a home.
Well, think about it this way: you increase the supply of new houses. What does that do?
Yeah, it lowers the prices. We talked about that.
Yeah, so making it easier for people to buy homes.
Yeah, I mean, I guess if it works in a perfect way that you're explaining it in, then I guess it could benefit over a long period of time.
Yeah,
Um,
that's the goal.
I think there's a lot of other factors that would have to be perfect for that to work the way that you're saying it would.
Nope. I don't know what
Well,
you mean by perfect. I genuinely don't know what you mean. I don't know why you're assuming that things would have to be perfect.
I mean, there's other things in the you know economics. You majored in it. There's other factors that go into building homes alone. You have to factor in the cost of the materials. You have to factor in the cost of the labor. You have to factor in the cost of all these things, which the demand would go up for. So what's going to
Bro,
happen to the price on those things? So then
I'm
inevitably,
sorry, like,
I would
how is
think,
that relevant to the fact that the tax credit's going to create an incentive to produce it, which inevitably will increase the supply? Like,
okay, so let's say, okay, you increase the supply. Increasing the supply equates to building having to occur. To build, you need materials and crews to do so. When you do that, now the demand is going to go up for said materials, which is going to what? The prices of said materials.
you're saying increase the prices of the materials. Is that what you're saying?
Correct. Correct. If there is a created shortage or something happens where the demand is spiking for homes to be built, what's going to happen to the price of lumber? What's going to happen to the price of shingles for roofs? What's going to happen to the price for windows and all that stuff and the labor that's
But
going into all that?
that's purposeful to then generate more production, right? And it's purposeful within that context. Now, if you want to reference the tariffs that have happened, that actually did cause that, but it didn't even cause an increase in the level of supply because it made it more expensive without increasing the demand.
Yeah, I mean, I don't want to get into the tariff conversation. I've heard you talk about them enough to where I kind of understand your stance on them. Um, but what I'm getting at is the point I was making is if you increase the demand, you increase the price of the materials, you will inevitably the houses will cost more because the materials cost
Yeah,
more.
that's purposeful.
And so you're basically going to break even at that point, and then you're just going to have a lot
No,
more oversupply of
and
expensive homes.
oversupply. That's the point. You want supply. We want to produce more supply. We have undersupply right now. So if you are supplying more, that's what we need.
I understand. Well, I mean, I don't think. I mean, I live in Houston. I don't think there's an undersupply of homes. It's just the price.
Okay, well, I'm sorry. What the dude? I'm sorry. The price is high because there's an undersupply of homes.
Okay, what I'm saying is when I look in Houston, there is a ton of homes for sale. The supply is there. I'm saying that they're too costly to purchase.
Okay. What can make them less costly is increasing the supply.
I'm following you. I'm following you. What I'm saying is if you increase the supply, it will take more work. It will take more materials, which will increase the price of materials, increase the price of labor, which will inevitably reach the same price anyway, or around the same price, because it's
I
going to
don't see
cost
where
more to
you
build the
get that
homes.
number. And even so, like you understand that we are trying to increase the price purposefully to then incentivize the production of those materials, production of those things that are going to be necessary towards building houses to a greater extent to then reduce prices on housing.
I mean, I don't know. I guess you're not following kind of where I'm going with my statement, but either way,
How do you suppose we make housing prices cheaper?
how do I suppose we make houses cheaper? I think the big institutions that purchase all of them and then rent them out and set their price, I think that they should be limited on that. And I think that's something Trump's working on, isn't he?
You think you say that one more time? Sorry.
I think that institutions, the big billion-dollar, trillion-dollar institutions that purchase all the single-family homes and then rent them out to families at a high rent, should not be able to do that. I think that that is predatory, and I think it's wrong.
Okay.
In my understanding, Trump is working on limiting how much institutions can purchase these single family homes, so that that's not the case anymore.
Yeah, that would have been expanded under Kamala Harris. Trump's only doing that partially. He's not doing it to the same extent that Harris would have.
Whether he's doing it partially or fully or whatever the case may be, I understand that he's trying to do that, and that's what I think. You asked what I think would lower
Yeah,
the
he's
home prices.
they're just reducing the amount you can buy.
Somebody said I'm pivoting from the question. I'm not sure how I'm doing that, but so that is my understanding, or that's my statement that I think that that would lower the home prices, and I think it would create more supply as well, which is what our previous point was.
So that we
Um,
want to do that plus also other things. Like that's not alone going to do it.
Wait, say that again. It's like muting and unmuting over and over. I can't.
Yeah, because you have an echo. So like every single time I don't unmute my mic or I don't mute my microphone, we get this like ringing noise that's super
Oh, I have
annoying.
an echo.
So I'm muting myself so that literally that doesn't happen because there's like this echoey noise that goes through
Oh,
your microphone.
I'm not sure why. It's weird.
Okay. So I was essentially just saying that um I think I was just I forgot honestly. What was I just saying? I don't even
You
know.
said you were saying we were talking about institutions being able to purchase homes, and I'm saying they should be able to
Yeah,
limit
that
them,
was
and you were saying
expanded under
Kamala's
Kamala
policy was
Harris.
better.
Oh, it's multifaceted. That's what I'm saying. Is that it's not just one thing.
Okay. Well, I mean, that's my answer to your question. You asked me what I think would lower home prices. That's my answer to that question.
Okay. All right. Is there anything else you want to talk about?
I mean, I feel bad. I feel like I'm boring your crowd, and I feel like you're not very invested in this conversation. One last thing I wanted to talk about was talking, or you were talking to somebody last week about, you kind of mentioned it in this conversation too, about people or billionaires taking out loans to use said money, and you disagreed with that. And I kind of wanted to talk about that a little bit.
Yeah, they take out loans against their like equity of their large businesses,
I understand
and
what they're
they
doing. I don't understand why you disagree with it.
because it's tax avoidance.
So you'd rather, okay, so this is the point that I wish that guy would have brought up when you were talking to him about it. So you understand that, and I'm not asking you, I know you understand that a lot of their wealth is tied up in stock market and investments and things like that, right?
Mm-hmm.
So if you were to take out, let's say Bezos again, or Elon, or whoever you want to mention, let's say he takes out $50 million out of the stock market so that he can use it for personal whatever, right? Now that money is no longer an investment for him, and now it is no longer gaining any capital appreciation. and it's going to affect the stock market price. So there's a few implications of just saying they're doing tax avoidance. It's also going to hurt other people if they pull out large sums of money.
Well, if you need to pull out large sums of money in order to pay for your basic stuff, why don't you just take a higher income and get taxed on it?
Why would they take higher income if they could just keep more money as an investment for their business?
Because they're trying to avoid taxes. They're doing that to avoid taxes.
Well, okay,
They
so
can
we
take
say
out an
that-
income. They can take out an income like everyone else and pay taxes directly like everyone else. But they're
I
purposely
understand
trying
that, but
not to
when
do
we
that.
say, I feel like avoiding taxes, quote unquote, is such a demonized term in which I don't understand, because when you say avoiding taxes, you're referring to they're not paying their fair share to people to it, to benefit everyone else. But to me, avoiding taxes is what everyone should try to do. Why would you want to pay taxes?
Are you kidding? You want everyone just to avoid taxes? Okay, well, for everyone else, we can't. Okay, I'm just gonna be totally honest. This shit really pisses me off. I fucking hate people that defend this. Genuinely. Pay your fair share. Jesus Christ, everyone else is doing it, and you can't fucking do it? They're acting like children.
Do you
They
not know
literally
that the
can't fucking pay
billionaires-
their taxes. Go fucking pay your taxes. You're an adult. Pay your taxes. Stop trying to avoid them so much. Jesus Christ, pay your damn fucking taxes.
By the way,
Acting
I
like
pay all
children.
my
It's
taxes. What I'm
embarrassing,
saying
dude.
is-
It is genuinely
what I'm-
embarrassing. Why do I have to be like your fucking parent and be like, dude, pay your fucking taxes? Holy shit, dude. We live in a society. We need to function in our society. And when people don't pay their fucking taxes, who are millionaires and billionaires, that inevitably means we can't fund the system and other people fucking lose access to the things that they need. We have a higher fucking deficit. All of those things. So pay your fucking damn taxes. Stop crying. Pay the taxes. Jesus Christ, dude. These people make millions and billions of dollars. They can pay the taxes. They can afford it. They're just being greedy and selfish.
So if someone who is a real estate investor,
It really pisses me off. Pay your taxes.
writes off depreciation and costs associated with running their real estate investment, you think that that's a bad thing?
They should pay the same fucking tax rates that everyone else is paying in terms of income tax. Cope and seethe. We all do it. You can do it too. You being a real estate investor doesn't make you a better person than me. You have to pay the same fucking tax rate or the same level of income. Jesus Christ, dude.
I don't think it's about if somebody's a better person or not. I think it's about
they think that they don't think they need to be held to the same standard as everyone else.
Okay, well, I can't argue that point.
They think they deserve to be able to hold on to more of their income than everyone else at that same level of income.
But I mean, don't billionaires pay the majority stake of taxes that are paid anyway? I feel
They don't pay a fair share though. They don't pay proportionally what they should be.
Who's gonna sit there and say what the fair share is? That's an opinionated
Of course,
what is
it's
a fair
opinionated.
share?
Of course, it's opinionated. But when they're paying lower effective tax rates than the working class, that's a big issue, is it not?
They are involved in so many.
Dude, you're advocating to keep your taxes higher, to lower their taxes, and to allow them to evade taxes to a greater extent. You're literally harming yourself to help out them.
I'm not advocating for my taxes to remain high. I'm advocating.
Yes, you are.
For people. No. I'm advocating, and by the way, I didn't say don't pay your taxes. I'm advocating for people to understand that they can lower their income and pay less taxes in their own way. Why is it the responsibility of billionaires or anyone else for that matter?
Well, if they want to do that, well, then I think they should be charged.
They should.
I think we should use
what?
They should be charged with tax evasion.
But it's not tax evasion.
It's
available to them through
pulling out personal loans against their company as collateral, right? In order to be able to literally take care of their personal expenses rather than taking out an income and getting taxed on that is absolutely tax evasion. They should take out an income like everyone else and pay taxes on that income like everyone else. Stop bootlicking for the fucking billionaires.
I understand what you're saying, but for example, you have a business, don't you?
Yeah. And do I do this? No.
Do you not
I don't
write
do this.
anything off?
No. Well, I do. Of course I write things off, but I pay taxes.
What are you talking about? You just conflicted your whole argument.
No, I didn't, you dumbass. I'm not taking out a loan, right, as collateral against my business, right, in order to then
the loan conversation.
Shut up.
Shut
up. I'm explaining. Listen. I'm not taking a loan out as collateral against my specific business, against the equity of my business, in order to be able to then pay for my personal expenses based upon that loan so that I'm only paying the interest on the loan rather than paying my taxes. I pay taxes. I take it as income.
Do you invest back into your business?
No, I take my money out of my business. The only
You
thing
don't
that
invest anything back into your business.
no, the only thing that
Then how
goes
do you,
back. Let me explain.
how does it grow?
This is my business, dude.
Okay, so you don't invest anything into your business. You don't buy a nicer chair, a better microphone, a nicer
So,
light, a nicer
so when you
camera,
say
a nicer
that, I
anything.
can tell you I make business expenses like I bought a microphone and I bought this. But most of my income specifically is going to be directly going to me. It's not going to be business expenses. I don't have many business expenses.
Okay, so then I'll just give an example. I was trying to make it more
And again,
close
my
to
issue
home.
was not having a business expense and deducting the business expense. That's
Okay,
not what I'm
let me
fucking
put it this
saying.
way for you.
My
Let me put it
issue,
this way
like,
for you.
listen, you're like purposefully misrepresenting what I'm saying. My
No, I'm
issue
not. I'm
was
asking you questions.
okay. Then I'm sorry. Your comprehension skills must be dog shit.
I
There's
think
no
you're just
way.
not talking about the same thing I'm talking about, or not understanding
No,
what I'm
you're
talking
talking
about.
about something that I'm not talking about.
Oh, let's start fresh here. If I own a business and I run a car dealership and I want to pay myself $50,000 a year so that I can put more and more money back into the business and I can invest into it, buy more cars, pay more people to work for me, why would I increase the amount of salary I make
That's
if I
not
can
what
go get a
Jeff
loan?
Bezos is doing. Okay,
Well,
let's look at what Jeff Bezos is doing.
okay.
He's not taking a fucking lower salary because he doesn't want more money and he wants to keep it invested in the business for other people. No, he's doing that because he can find other loopholes where he doesn't have to pay taxes. That's
Okay, then
why.
if you want to say that, then who
God, this is
created
the
the
most
loophole?
insufferable conversation ever because like you will defend them to the fucking tooth and
I'm
nail.
not defending anyone. I'm trying to understand why you're against it. I don't care for
I've
Jeff
explained it
Bezos. I
multiple
don't.
times.
But you're trying to attach me to caring about billionaires. I'm just trying to understand your stance on the matter. If Jeff Bezos wants to take out a loan and you call it a loophole, he didn't create that loophole.
That doesn't mean
Why
that he's
is
not
he
taking
being?
advantage of it.
If you're taking advantage of a loophole that's already there, what are you going to criminalize him for that?
I would say yes, there should be something changed so that literally
But
this
you
cannot.
literally said they should be charged for tax evasion. How are you going
Yes,
to charge someone for tax evasion if it's in the?
I want to close the loopholes and charge individuals to do this for tax evasion. Is that complicated? Like that's not
Then
a.
vote someone
None
in
of
the
these things are
office that's going to do
complicated.
that.
Oh my god! Of course, that's what I'm trying to do. That's what I'm doing on my live stream right now. I'm advocating for politicians that will do that. Holy fuck, dude!
And then
What
they're
do you
going to
think
take away
What do you
these
think I'm doing right now?
and then they're going to take away these quote unquote loopholes for everybody. You can't write off your
Yes,
microphone. The guy
that's
down the
not
street
a
can't write off his
loophole. Jesus
depreciation on
fuck,
his
dude!
home.
Being able to deduct a business expense is not a loophole. What are you talking about?
But they're
It
not.
makes
But you're
sense
mad
that
that
you
you're
can
doing it.
listen. It makes sense that you can deduct the business expense. If I pay out money to my employees, I have to be able to deduct that because I did not take that as income.
I feel like you're trying to say that I'm not understanding you. I feel like you're not understanding me. If you're a business owner and you want to go back to the loan conversation, if you're a business owner and you can take out a loan and use that money to do whatever you want with, which by the way, everyone has access to, not just billionaires. Why wouldn't you do that as opposed to paying yourself more, which would affect your business and effectively affect a lot of other things that go on in the stock market, that go on inside of your business, that go on outside of your business? Why wouldn't you do what is available to you?
Jeff Bezos taking a multiple $1 million salary, it would not affect Amazon very much.
Okay, well, you're making it too specific. I'm just trying to understand your stance on the matter.
My stance is they shouldn't be able to do these loopholes. They should pay taxes like everyone else. I don't understand how this is
They
complicated.
do pay taxes, bro. You're saying they don't pay taxes.
They do not pay
that's
their
a
fair share.
misconception.
They don't.
Their
No,
fair
they're not.
share
They're
is
not
your
because
opinion.
they're not
What is
taking
a
it out
fair
as
share?
personal
Your
income.
fair share is 70%.
Oh my god, dude.
That's what you think is fair.
On over $1 billion, not on everything. If you're making in the millions, right, you should be paying up to 50%. Okay?
50% for millionaires? Dog,
Yes.
I cannot understand how you get to that point in your or that that's absurd.
Are you a
to me.
millionaire?
Not yet, but when I become one, I don't want to pay 50% of what I
I'm
make.
talking about making $1 million in a year. You think you're gonna make $1 million in a year?
100% I will.
Okay.
Who are you to say that I won't?
Well, then when you make millions of dollars in a year, you can pay up to 50%.
Why would I? That's what I'm getting at. And it doesn't matter if I'm a millionaire or not. What does it matter? The point is, if you make $1 million, you think you should be taxed 50% of that.
Yeah, if you're making over millions of dollars, right, you should be taxed up to 50%. Absolutely.
Okay, $1,001, and you want to tax 50% of that.
Absolutely.
That's absurd to me, man.
How?
I'll be honest with you.
How is that absurd to you?
What do you mean how? Why? Okay, the overarching thing that happens when you do things like that is that it's going to what's the word, de-incentivize, I guess, people to become rich, which will have a horrible economic impact. People won't want to start businesses. They won't want to work to become wealthy. They won't want to do these things.
I think they'll be fine. I think they'll, if you're making that much money and you want to make more money, you're going to still want to keep doing this because you inevitably still will make more money. You'll just be taxed on it, so you'll make less money than what you would have made otherwise. Okay? What's the big issue, dude? They're millionaires. They can afford it.
Why would I shoot to be a millionaire if I could make $999,999?
Dude, this guy's stupid.
If I'm gonna lose 50%.
Oh my god, dude. This guy doesn't know what fucking tax brackets are. Okay? So tax brackets mean that you're going to pay...
I know what tax brackets are, bro.
All right, so then let me explain, because I think you used it incorrectly. So let me explain. Think of the galaxy,
okay.
Thank you, Paris. So up to a certain amount of income, you pay the same tax as everyone else. Up to the same amount of income, okay? And it's only on the income over 1 million that you'd pay this.
Okay, even with that said, there would be no incentive to reach into the decamillions. There would be no incentive to reach into the centimillions, which is, again, that's de-incentivizing.
So you're telling me people won't want to be millionaires because of the fact that they'll have to pay 50% tax rates? Then why are there millionaires in California?
No. I'm not saying they won't want to be millionaires.
Why are there millionaires living in California?
You're missing my point.
Why are there millionaires living in California?
Okay. If you want to give an example of a certain location, didn't France try to do this very thing and then all the billionaires left the country?
Can you give me a source?
Google.
That's not a source. That's a search engine.
Google up France taxing billionaires. There's a bunch of sources there. I read a bunch of them.
Okay. Well, I think you need to provide us a little bit more information on that. I'm not going to do the research for you.
You have a computer in front of you. I'm on my phone.
Yeah, and I'm not doing your research for you.
Okay. Jesus Christ.
Are you Christian, by the way?
I'm trying to be cordial with you here, man. I feel like you're trying to.
Are you Christian?
I am, and I don't want to get into that either.
Did you just use your Lord Savior and you just use your Lord and Savior's name in vain?
I should not have done it. It was wrong of me to do that. Yep.
Jesus Christ, dude, that's crazy, bro. Amanda, thank you for the $5. Thank you so much, Amanda. I really appreciate it. Thank you. And Susan, thank you so much for the $20 on Venmo. I really appreciate it. Thank you, Susan. As well as Nick, thank you so much for the $20 as well. Thank you very much. I really appreciate it. Give me some W's for Nick in the comment section as well. Thank you very much. I really appreciate it. Thank you. I know, it's really ridiculous. Thank you very much. Rachel as well, thank you for the $5. Thank you very much. I really appreciate it. Thank you. Thank you. Darsol, thank you so much. Really appreciate the $5. Thank you very much. I really appreciate it. Thank you. I know one day maybe. Keonan, thank you so much for the 10 membership subscriptions. Thank you very much. If you're on YouTube, hit that thumbs up. If you're on TikTok, tap that screen. If you want to support me as always, Venmo, PayPal, link tree in the bio, as well as the description of YouTube. As well as you can support me over YouTube Super Chat as always, everybody. Yasmin, thank you for the $5. Thank you.
Yahoo Finance has a piece. Before California, France tried a wealth tax.
I'm not even saying a wealth tax. I'm specifically talking about taxes on income. Wealth tax, you're talking about unrealized tax, okay? I'm talking about...
That's what you said Kamala wanted to do, too.
No, I didn't say that Kamala wanted to do that. I said Kamala Harris didn't want to do this.
Well, I didn't hear a source for that either.
You're the one that would have to provide a source that she did want to do this. Right? You're the one claiming she wanted to do this.
I disagreed with that ideology, and you said that wasn't
and she never said that was her policy.
I've found sources online of
Chalupa Batman, thank you for $10. Not her policy though. People claiming it's her policy does not mean it's her policy.
Okay, then whose policy was it?
Joe Biden's.
Okay, and you voted for him and you supported him.
Yeah.
Okay, well, what are we talking about here?
He didn't do that. It didn't pass. Nothing happened. Keep crying.
I'm not crying. I'm just...
Dude, you're literally so mad about tax increases for billionaires and millionaires. Jesus Christ, dude. And it's like, country, we have 420,000 cut off of free school lunch and breakfast through the Big Beautiful Bill on average every single month. Add $3.4 trillion to that. 10 million people cut off their access to Medicaid, and over 2.5 million people cut off their access to food stamps on average every single month. And you're like, oh my God, the millionaires and the billionaires, they'll have to pay more in taxes for people to have healthcare, childcare, and housing affordability. No. Dude, seriously, it's ridiculous. This annoys me so much because it's like, bro, you would rather these fucking millionaires and billionaires maintain the money they have rather than people get access to things that they need, rather than families being fed, rather than people having healthcare, rather than people literally having shelter. Like, what fucking delusional world do you want to live in? You want to live in a world where people can have their next fucking yacht, the next 3 yachts that they can buy for the family, rather than like literally taking care of the people in your family and in your community, literally as a Christian yourself. You're a Christian, and you're advocating more for the tax cuts for millionaires and billionaires than you're advocating for, like, children to eat in school.
Yes, I'm advocating for tax efficiency for the companies that I work for and for the people who employ me that can invest more money back into their company that would
You don't
help
know how tax
the
brackets
people
work.
that
I
work
already
there.
explained it to you.
Why
Marginal
does everything
tax
go back
rates
to
being
tax
higher.
brackets for you?
Yeah, because those are the relevant incentives in relation to investments into the business versus not investing into the business.
Okay.
And top marginal tax rates being higher incentivizes them to reinvest into the business. I already explained that to you.
Whatever.
Whatever.
Somebody else mentioned into the chat, you usually do this pivot thing where you go to these emotional standpoints once the conversation becomes, I guess, something you don't no longer want to talk about. When you say all these thank yous for all these Venmos and PayPals and all this other stuff, how much of that is going to those children that you're saying you care so much about that are not having food?
%. I put all that money into my bank account. I advocate for politicians that decrease their access to food and cut their access to
so
food
if
stamps.
you don't care and you're the one
I
advocating
advocate for them on my platform every single day. The people that strip them off their access to food stamps and cut taxes for millionaires and billionaires, because I care more about the millionaires and billionaires than I care about working people. I live in Los Angeles, bro. Do the math.
You asked me. And you say I'm Christian, so why don't I care about these children? Meanwhile, you're raking money in on the backs of the conversations about these issues, and you don't donate to said issues. I'm just trying to make that make sense in my head.
I don't talk about on the internet what I donate to, because I don't care to justify that to you.
$0.
But I was trolling, dude. I said I donate $0, and then I vote for politicians that literally disenfranchise people's access to these. Obviously, I was trolling. Okay, so I'm not going to tell you how much I fucking donate, but I live in Los Angeles, and I definitely pay my fair share. I'll tell you that, buddy.
You're the only one, right? The only one paying your fair share. Nobody else does.
Yeah, I actually take my money out in terms of income and pay my fair share. I actually pay taxes into a system that I believe in. California does provide broader access to people. That is a fact.
But again, are you insinuating that I don't pay taxes? I don't understand your.
I
your
never
vibe on that
insinuated you
statement.
didn't. I insinuated that millionaires and billionaires don't, right? Who are specifically evading taxes. Not all millionaires and billionaires, but the millionaires and billionaires that do.
Okay, fair enough. I feel like we didn't really come to any common ground on any of those different topics.
Yeah, you just tried to act like I wasn't upholding my worldview. What is my worldview?
No, I just disagreed with a lot of the ways that you think that the economic would be benefited by some of the policies that you mentioned. I disagree with them.
Yeah, but like you were trying to say that I was being hypocritical and that I wasn't doing what I say I do. And what evidence did you have of that?
About is that if you are, that was about loopholes. I'm saying if people are using loopholes that are available to them, I don't think that should be criminalized. If they want to make that a criminal offense, then they should write that into the legislation. That's not, you can't just demonize people for doing something that's available to them.
I can't demonize someone for doing something that's available to them. I can say that it's selfish and greedy for them to do it if it's available to them. For example,
selfish and greedy is subjective.
Wait. People can cheat on their partners. It's within their ability. Do you agree? Can
Well,
you
it
say
depends
that?
on how you define it.
Wait,
Depends on how you define your morality of your
I'm
relationship. Some people
asking,
find that to be
dude, Jesus
okay.
fucking Christ. Answer the question.
I don't believe
Is
it's
it
okay.
within
No,
your
I am a
ability?
Christian, so I don't believe it's okay.
Is it
No,
within your ability?
yeah, of course.
Okay, so just because something's within your ability doesn't mean I can't say that you acted wrong when you did something within your ability. Like what? That is the
I
dumbest thing I've
understand
ever
this. I
heard. That is
understand what you're
actually the
trying to.
dumbest thing. You're saying it's
I
within their
understand what you're
ability.
trying to
So
get at.
actually, because it's within their legal ability, that means that they should be able to do
No,
it,
no,
and
no.
you
But
shouldn't say that they did
there's
wrong.
huge implications that come with using loopholes to lower your yearly income, as opposed to what you're trying to say, which is you can act on any decision you want to make. I'm saying that if somebody has the ability to lower their annual income so that they can have more money in their pocket, that and it's available to do that, why wouldn't you? Anyone would do that. Anyone in your chat that's disagreeing with me would do the same thing. If they could have more money in their pocket, they would do it. And if they say they wouldn't, they're lying.
Well, I'll tell you, I've paid taxes, and I could have definitely, done things like other people to not pay as much in taxes, and I didn't do that. Why? Because I think it's bullshit.
Okay, I mean, again, that's your opinion. I respect your opinion. I disagree with it.
Okay, but like you said, everyone would do it in this circumstance. Nope. Been in the circumstance and didn't do it.
The
Literally.
point I'm
Like I can't believe that you literally said that when I've been in the circumstance and didn't do that. Myself.
just
And
because
hell, there
you
are many
decide
people in
not
the
to
chat
do
who've done the
something
same
does not
thing.
mean. I'm saying the majority, not every single individual on Earth. The majority of people who had the
So if the
ability to
majority
get
of
more.
people would do that, wouldn't that then mean that we should tax because a majority of people wouldn't do it otherwise?
I don't. What did you just say? The majority of
So
what?
are you saying that's why taxation is effective? Because a majority of people wouldn't do it otherwise? That's why you can't just leave
100%
it up to
nobody would
private
do it
charity, and that's
otherwise.
why you've got to do it through taxation?
100% nobody would pay taxes if it was an option.
So that's exactly
That's what
why
I'm
it's
getting
got
at.
to be mandated. You just are mad when we're enforcing it against billionaires.
No. I just think it should be an equal percentage across the board. I don't think that the
Oh,
billionaires shouldn't pay taxes. I never said
wait?
that.
Are you advocating for a flat tax rate, or are you saying that they should be paying their fair share?
If you were to tax every person 20% of their income a year, that would be
We
a
would
fair
not be able
share.
to pay for the federal government.
Okay, what I'm just saying an arbitrary
And also,
percentage. Whatever
someone makes
percentage you need to
$100, they
it
should
to
be
be at.
taxed $20.
If someone makes $100, should they be taxed $20? That's like the same way that the way you feel about that statement is how I feel about you saying somebody that pulls out 100 grand
Not
should
at
be taxed
all.
70
Not at
grand
all.
of it.
Want to know why? Because at different levels of income, it impacts your quality of life differently to be taxed at those particular percentages. Because
Okay, cool, but
cost of
that's
living
nobody's
makes
making
up a lower
$100.
percentage of
Nobody's
your
making
cost of.
$100 a year.
Wait, listen,
Let's be
cost of
realistic.
living makes up less of your income. Jeez, fuck, dude. Just please listen.
I've been listening to you. I've
No,
been
you're
telling you
not.
I'm disagreeing, and then you keep trying to find a way to make me look like I'm like trying to. I don't know. I don't know what you're trying to get out of me. I've told you I disagree, and we didn't come to any common ground, and then you kept
How
asking me
about you
more
like
stuff.
try to understand what I'm saying? Can you repeat back my
I've,
argument?
I've been sitting here trying to understand it for an
Okay,
hour.
then repeat back my argument.
Which one, dude? You've
The
said
one I just
100
made.
of them. The one you just made was while I was talking. I don't know what you just said.
How about the one prior to that? Can you say any of them?
The one prior to the one that you just said, we were
Yeah.
talking about how it's the flat tax wouldn't work, and $100 taxing $20 would be a wrong thing to do. That's what I believe that was the second to last thing you said.
Yeah, and then I also made a claim that it's not viewed as the same because of the fact that $20 of $100 is going to impact someone's quality of life to a significantly greater extent in terms of ability to pay for cost of living, comparative to taxing 20% of someone who made $1 million. Right?
And that's why they have a marginal tax bracket, right?
So that's why we have tax brackets and progressive tax structures. So you just said you agree with that, right? A progressive tax structure?
I do agree with the way that we have it now. You know, like I said, if you want people to not use loopholes anymore, that should be put into place. I
I
can't. I
agree.
have no control over that.
Wait, do you agree, though, that the loophole should be gotten rid of?
I do not agree with that. No. Okay, hold on. Let me clarify. There are certain investment vehicles that I do believe you should be able to lower your house or your annual income. For example, real estate.
The home that you purchase is going to depreciate over time. It's going to take money that you have to dump into it to keep it, keep it up. And then you're going to there's certain ways that they're not considered loopholes. It's just the right thing for that type of investment.
So we're specifically talking about loopholes, and you just said you don't want to get rid of loopholes. Let me just clarify real quick. Do you agree you don't want to get rid of loopholes?
I just made a statement and you just completely ignored it.
I didn't ignore it. I'm just asking.
I'm
Is
not trying to
that
do this
truly your
absolute game
position?
that you play. I've seen you do this game. I don't like the game. I don't want to play it. I
It's
said my
somehow a
statement.
game. By the way, all I've done is asking him to reaffirm the
Oh, you're
position.
trying to say, oh, so you don't want any loopholes or you want to keep up all the loopholes. What I said was, let me clarify. Not all of the loopholes. I don't think maybe you can get rid of some of them. What I did say was there's certain investment vehicles that I do believe you should be able to lower your annual income so that you can put more money into that investment and not feel the pain of that. That's what I said.
Oh, so like which ones?
I gave the example of real estate. You buy a property, it's going to depreciate. You can write that off on your taxes. When you drive over there, you can write off the mileage of driving over there. You can, any money you put into it, you put a new garage door, you put a new roof, you can write that off. I think that that's not a loophole. I
No
think
one
that that
said writing off things when you're fucking literally redoing a house shouldn't be something that you can write off.
you asked me what I thought and I told you. And then you're telling me that I'm
That's
wrong for an opinion.
no one said that's a loophole.
Then what are you saying?
Tax deductions are not loopholes. What
Then
I
what is a
like
loophole? You define
I
a
gave
loophole
you an
for me, then we
example of
can
a loophole
continue.
earlier that specifically allowed for people to take out private loans to use it on personal expenses so that they could specifically
Everyone
not
can
pay.
do that. That's not a loophole that's exclusive to billionaires. I've seen people take money that was granted to them for college and they spent it on ribeye steaks and weed. Like I don't know what like
Okay, well,
you're
I have
acting
to
like
kick you now because you just said that and it's TikTok TOS, and you can't say that. You have to say W drug. Just letting you know. Secondly, like, at the highest levels of income, they're taking it as collateral against those highest levels of equity in order to use them on personal expenses, right? To avoid taking income. So it's clear in that circumstance they are using it as their personal income and they're not just using it as like something to supplement things they need to pay for their life. Like, to clarify, supplementing something where like otherwise you wouldn't be able to afford something makes sense because you're using it as collateral, something that you own to be able to do that. Whereas what they're doing in this situation is clearly evading the taxes on income because they're using this as a replacement for their income. Like, that's why it's a loophole for them and not explicitly in other circumstances.